So you're running for the 7th Congressional District, which does include Eaton County and Potterville, and you live in the area. How exciting and important is it that the former president is visiting Potterville?
Yeah, it's very exciting. You know, this is a community, of course, Potterville is a small town. I moved here just 4 days after I returned home from Iraq on a deployment. My wife and I bought our first home only about a mile from here. This is a town of only about 3,000 people, so it's very exciting to have a president come to town like this. It really gives us the opportunity to show off the significance and importance of small towns throughout Michigan, but especially right here in Eaton County. 3 of my 4 kids were brought home from the hospital to our home here in Potterville, and we now live just a few miles away from here, still in Eaton County. I'm excited and proud to be from this community, and we're excited to have President Trump here today.
Okay, so what are you hoping you're going to hear from the former president today at Arlo?
Yeah, at Alro. So he's in town really to showcase and highlight his plan for the economy, and specifically around manufacturing, inflation, and the issues of the economy that still rank as, if not the number one, certainly essentially tied for the number one issue that voters are expressing their concerns about. The contrast between the Trump economy, where we had thriving economic opportunity for people throughout all different walks of life, versus the Kamala Harris, Joe Biden economy now, where we have a rising cost of living, soaring inflation, energy costs that are getting more and more expensive, and things that are just setting families back, groceries that are forcing people to compromise nutrition for cost, for groceries for themselves and their children. So these are things that are a very clear contrast, and I think President Trump will be highlighting that today in his visit.
Okay. One of the things that has come up is there's been some confusion about who can go, who can't go to see the president, and obviously there's a great deal of excitement that folks might have that opportunity. There was even a post and a text message that went out from the president in his campaign last night saying, "Well, I see you in Potterville." And the Potterville police chief had to say, "Hey, this isn't your invitation, it's a closed event." Does that cause frustrations, do you think, for the local citizens?
I'm sure it may. I think, and I'll let the campaign speak to what happened, but part of my understanding is that the registration link was leaked out to someone that, it ended up getting sent in a widespread manner in which it wasn't intentionally or originally intended for. But I'll let the campaign kind of speak to that. I'm not the one running the event, so I don't have direct knowledge of all of that. But, regardless of, whether we have a 25,000 person mega rally that, certainly has happened throughout Michigan, or whether we have an opportunity to host a president here in a small town. I mean, we don't have any 25,000 person venues in Potterville. As I said, we're a city of maybe 3,000 or so people. So I think we have to be somewhat realistic with our expectations for what we can accommodate for crowd size. But I think the enthusiasm and the interest in people coming here to see President Trump shows the capture that he has with people, especially in small towns throughout our country, but really here in Michigan, which ranks as certainly probably the top 1 or 2 most competitive swing state in the country this year.
Right. So I got to go hang out with folks in Howell as they were waiting for the president to drive through in the motorcade. That doesn't appear like that's going to be a real opportunity here in Potterville. Is that, do you think, look, it's a security thing, let's be real honest, right? I mean, we have a gentleman who somebody tried to assassinate, right? And we do need to be aware of the security. But is there, in terms of a planning construct, does that sort of add to sort of some of the disappointment that may be happening? And I'm not trying to slam the president or Secret Service or anybody else here.
Yeah, I mean, you always have a balance, right? In anything you do in life, you have a balance between security and access, openness and security. We have that debate certainly in public discourse when we look at national security and what are the limits of what our government can do to monitor and keep us safe from threats of terrorism without violating individual rights of people to have access to a free society. That becomes a much more heightened concern when you have someone like a president or presidential candidate, especially someone who had a almost fatal assassination just a few weeks ago, for example. I think you have to balance those a little bit differently, perhaps. But we always have that calculation. I mean, it starts in our own lives to a small degree, but really it becomes more present as you have perhaps a higher profile, and certainly I would argue just about no one else in the world right now has a higher profile than Donald Trump today. But this is something that certainly has to be balanced out, and I'll leave it to the Secret Service, our law enforcement professionals who are doing a risk analysis. I'm sure there is confidential information as far as a threat analysis and other things that they're privy to that I'm certainly not, and members of the public are probably not aware of as well. And ultimately they have to keep people safe, but this is still a free and open society where we want to engage with the candidates that are ultimately going to lead our country. We are a self-governed society, and if we isolate out people who are in political leadership, then they will lose that touch with people that ultimately elect them to office. And I'm thankful that President Trump isn't hiding the way that Kamala Harris is. He's willing to go out and engage with members of the media. He's willing to engage with members of the public, and he's not hiding away from who he is or what his vision for America is, unlike you see Kamala Harris, who 40 days or more into her essential, more or less nomination, coronation, you might say, as the Democrats' presidential candidate, no media interviews, and I think sits for her first interview tonight with Tim Walz. So she has, someone there as an assist to help her out in that interview, whereas Donald Trump is fully in command, not only of the issues and the vision that he has for America, but his willingness to go out and share that with people and share that with the media as well.
Okay. And this will sort of be my last question, because I know you've got to get over to the event venue.
Sure.
This is sort of a historic event. I talked to the president of the Greater Lansing Historical Society. He said, to his knowledge, there has not been a mainstream top-level presidential candidate or president that has visited a small community in the Tri-County area.
Yeah.
And we've obviously had Delta Township or Lansing.
Sure.
How exciting and important is that Potterville is making history today?
Yeah, it's a big deal. Regardless of where people are at on the political spectrum, I would hope that they could recognize the significance of a small town like Potterville having the opportunity to be showcased in the national media today. I mean, we're here at Joe's Gizzard City. It was featured on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. It's a popular destination for people. I think that's exciting, right? We ought to lean into that and really celebrate it. I think it's at least a significant deal for people in this community and for the greater Eaton County surrounding area as well. And I'm excited about it, and I think that people recognize the opportunity that we have. And really, to me, it speaks to the real weight of the vote that we have in Michigan, being a top competitive swing state. We are going to influence the national presidential ticket here from Michigan. We have a top-tier United States Senate race that will ultimately decide the balance of power in the United States Senate, with Mike Rogers as our nominee for the United States Senate. And right here in the 7th Congressional District, this is ranked as the #1 most competitive and most consequential congressional race in the entire country. So right here in Potterville, you have #1 swing state in the presidential election, #1 swing state in the U.S. Senate race, #1 swing state on the congressional map, and the top toss-up seat for the State House of Representatives here with Andy Shaver running for the State House. So you have all of those combined in one right here in Eaton County. That's an exciting thing, and voters here have an outsized role in determining the course of direction that we're going to take. Are we going to go down the same path we've been on with a high cost of living, with illegal immigration coming across the border in record numbers, with national security threats that abound every single day? Or are we going to return to a strong economy, a strong national defense, crime under control, and our border under control? And those are the choices that we have in just a little less than 10 weeks from now.
Okay. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to add that you think is really important?
No, anyone interested in seeing a little bit more about my campaign can go to TomBarrettForCongress.com. We'd certainly love to engage with anyone. I've been out and about in every corner of this district, knocking on doors, going to community events, engaging and listening to voters in this district to hear what's on their mind, and look forward to doing that for the remainder of this race.
Okay, great. I'm going to turn this on.